Hey everyone, and welcome to a new series looking at some old school White Dwarf articles. I'm using this as part of a new streaming series I'm doing, which is called Lore Time Lunch or Lunchtime Lore. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but the plan is, it's kind of an accountability stream. I am stealing the idea from my good friend Fiona at What Am I Rolling podcast, where she does the TLDR streams, where she looks at some old RPGs or some RPG quick starts to try and force herself to go and have a look at this mountain of books. And I've got a mountain of White Dwarf, I've got a mountain of old codexes, a mountain of RPG books, and loads of sort of stuff around the Warhammer sphere that I thought it could be a good way to force myself to look at these amazing things. And so that's what this episode is about. I'm taking some of the excerpts from these live shows and tidying them up, doing a bit more editing, and making sure you get a full experience at looking at these old articles and old bits of lore, which I think are really interesting. And so today we're going to be looking at a White Dwarf with one of the most iconic pieces of art on the cover. It is this one. 212 from August 1997. Look at that battle sister. I love this piece of art. It is so freaking cool. I remember seeing this on the shelves and being absolutely in awe and wanting to buy some of those cool little battle sisters, which were coming out, I think August 15th, 12th, 15th, I think they were having the launch date. So it was coming out the next month, because they're always, it says August 97, but actually it came out in July. So it was preparing you for that. And because of that, we're going to be looking at the main article, and it's taking some excerpts from the Codex Adeptus Sororitas. This is the article here. We're going to be looking at that article. It also shows 3 unique scenarios written by Gav Thorpe, which are very cool and kind of have a set in here to link it together towards a campaign. And yeah, that's what we're looking at today. And if you want more of this, I'm going to be doing these Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, 12:30 to 2 o'clock. And if you want to see the next one, it's going to be looking at Green is Mean. It's a whole article where they take a look at epic 40k orc armies. It's absolutely stunning, and you'll see a few kind of snippets from that in the video. So anyway, enough of me chatting now. Why don't we get into looking at the article? But the key part of this is the Sisters of Battle. Special feature on the Adeptus Sororitas creates 3 scenarios along with pages taken from the new Sisters of Battle Codex. Now this is what we're going to be reading about. Who's writing this one? It's a rambling by Andy Kettlewell. I like this banner at the bottom. I like that for a nice bit of graphic design. Might steal that idea for something. But this is Scourge of the Damned. Scourge of the Damned consists of 3 short scenarios written by Gav Thorpe for the Sisters of Battle, played as separate games or linked together to form a mini-campaign. They're an excellent way to start playing games with the Sisters of Battle. We've also thrown in some hints and tips on modeling and converting your Sisters of Battle. Great stuff. You'll take that job? Dan, go for it. That screams Hamilton. It does, right? This does scream it. Obviously, the first thing that I got back into when I went back to 40k was the Sisters of Battle, because they're pretty freaking cool. So the Forces of Ecclesiarchy. The Codex Sisters of Battle is a little different from other codices. Not only does it give you some essential history on the Imperium, but it also gives you an extensive army list for the forces of the Ecclesiarchy. The Ecclesiarchy are devoted to the worship of the Emperor, and the army list involves information about Battle Sisters squads, missionaries, and Frateris militia bands, along with all the other lore subjects who are constantly fighting to defend the Imperial faith. There we go. Here's some little quotes it says here. I really like all the dark history and organisation of the Imperium, and I find the image of ragged militia bands led into battle by fanatical preachers very appealing. Do you, Andy Kettlewell? Thank you for that insight. The difference between Codex Sisters of Battle and other codices is that the forces detailed in the book are found on every Imperial planet. There you go. And can be formed from the planet's local population. These forces constantly battle against evil cults without the help of other armies of the Imperium. And even if a planet is invaded by a hostile alien race, it will be the Ecclesiarchy who defends the world before the Imperial Guard or the Space Marines arrive. So they're your first line defense. There's no talk of planetary forces. I think the PDF, Planetary Defense Forces, is the thing that they used to have in, if you listen to, what's his name? Caiaphas Cain, loads of times he's always ending up getting there as the Imperial Guard. They're like second, so you always start off with, there's the PDF, Planetary Defense Force, then you turn, which are just like, sort of like National Guard, I guess, in America, or like the Territorial Army in the UK, and they sort of like, and they're generally put as like absolutely shite and like completely inept. And then upturns, come up Caiaphas Cain, he comes along with all his like Imperial forces in the terms of the Imperial Guard, and they sort of take over. Someone check on Andy. Oh yeah, someone does need to. And then once they've turned up, they're sort of holding the fort down. And if it all gets they can't figure it out, then you have to call on the Spush Marines to come and sort shit out. Which generally, and if all shit goes completely wrong, then Exterminator. So you just blow the planet up, Darth Vader style. And so yeah, that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about PDF here. They've always talked about the sororitas, and the ecclesiarchy is on every planet because they are there enforcing the faith on everyone. And they do turn up a lot in Caiaphas Cain and some Gaunt's Goats, and yeah, they're an interesting bunch. But there's Caiaphas Cain has interesting terminology for emperor botherers. He calls people who are very keen on the faith, which I always like that term. Anyway, I really like. Okay, here we are. This is the repeat of it. I really like the Dark History and Organization of Imperium. Image of Ragged. Yeah, so he says, I incredibly like, characterful and cool. What more can I say except that it's a good book? Andy Kettlewell, writing for Games Workshop's own magazine, thinks their own Codex book is very good. Highlights there from 1997. Special circumstances. There are usually only two reasons why the forces of the ecclesiarchy would fight alone against an enemy. The first of these is the primary line of defense before other troops arrive. Preachers, confessors, and missionaries are often the first to discover hidden cults, confront alien invaders, and generally get into trouble. The other situation is during a war of faith, when certain followers of the emperor misinterpret his words as taught by the ministerium, thus becoming heretics. Now, this actually occurs in Necromunda's lore, when one of the nobles misrepresents one of the saints and says like Michaelius instead of Michaelium, and it causes an actual complete war of faith that lasts for like 50 years just because one noble says something wrong. And so that's kind of a common thing, it seems. And so wars of faith sweep through entire systems and signify massive upheaval. Others are much more local affairs. In these circumstances, the ecclesiarchy is unlikely to get aid from the Imperial Guard and Space Marines and must use its own forces alone to achieve its aims. This means the ecclesiarchy will rarely fight a straight battle against an enemy army as in your average Warhammer 40k game. The objectives of the Imperial Faith are not always the same as those in normal battle missions. There we go. Gav Thorpe's coming in here. Gav Thorpe, the man who wrote the Codex, has written 3 scenarios included later in this article. These demonstrate typical ecclesiarchy objectives and give games of Warhammer 40k an extra twist to make them a bit more fun to play. Bit more fun. Only a little bit more fun. Not wildly more fun, because that would be crazy, because it was already so much fun. In 1997, it was not as fun as it is today, and 40k is, well, I don't know, I've not played 10th, so I can't say. I hear it's more fun, but it's not Necromunda. There you go. The scenarios are best used to play fairly small battles, perhaps only 500 to 750 points per side, but they can be used for larger battles if you want. They're also a great way of using the Adeptus Ministerium army list in conjunction with subsidiary army lists from other codices, namely the Chaos Cult and Genestealer Cult armies, with whom the Ecclesi battle on many occasions, which is a classic, right? Limit the fun, right, Dan? You don't want people to get too excited playing the Warhammers. Chaos Cults, Genestealer Cults, they, as it said, the Sisters of Battle and the Ecclesiarchy are there to rout out any attempts, against the faith, anything against the faith. And so Genestealer Cults, Xenos, and what's the Sisters of Battle thing is like, they're not the Inquisitorium, the inquisitorial section, and the Ecclesiarchy overlap quite a lot. They utilize each other quite a bit, and obviously the terminology I was trying to get off from the Sisters of Battle as the Holy Trinity of Bolter, Melter, and Flamer are their Holy Trinity that they like to use on such heretics. And finding heresy at all corners is that is their fun. That's where they find the fun times. Some ideas on linking the 3 scenarios into a rough campaign using different armies are given later in the article. This gives you an opportunity to play out your own war of faith across entire systems or defend imperial worlds against the huge chaos of Tyranid invasion. When you turn over your page, you'll find a map illustrating some important imperial worlds, as well as some historical campaigns. You can use some of the planet names on the map or add background to your games and follow the conquest of your armies across the galaxy. Well, I can't be bothered to finish reading that. Let's have a look at this map. Look at that. I'm going to not lie, I was expecting more. I've forgotten, actually. The quality, but there you go. It's nice. You get nice little pictures here. They've all got little symbols which designate the different, rulerships over them. So it says tip here, there's a tip. Just as Andy Chambers invented a simple background for this Peshina campaign in White Dwarf 9199, you can invent planets for your own games and add them to this map. Wow! Using a map, you can add extra dimension to your games by plotting the victories and defeats of your armies. I quite like that as an idea. That is very cool. So yeah, what have we got here? So like you got Necromunda. Picture there, the little Necromunda, the house of... it's gone right out of my head. I should know this. Helmar, there's their logo there. You've got Terra, with Terra's little logo there for the Imperial thing. And then you've got some other little pictures. You've got the Space Wolves there, the Space Wolf planet of Fenris, the Cadian Gate, Cadia stands. Avignor, these are inquisitorial planets. So it's birthplace of Sebastian Thor. And the Diocese of Armandus Hailfire. What a nice chap. What an absolutely nice chap. So here's the first of the scenarios. Defend the Shrine. Look, I actually quite like that map. It's quite a classic sort of map there. There you go. I think that's better. Yeah, so defend the Shrine. In this first scenario, the Sister Battle have been called upon to defend a holy place containing relics sacred to the Emperor from an enemy of superior numbers. Both players choose their armies from any appropriate Codex list, and neither army may include allies. The System Battle may only choose a force worth half the points of their opponent's army. So here we go. You've got a defensive sort of tower defense mode. You're going to have Sister Battle with at least half the points of the attackers. And here we go. So it says, often a Gene Stealer or Chaos Cult will mark out the Ecclesiarchy as the first target for its attention. In the more civilized places of the Imperium, this offensive will usually be political in nature, trying to reduce Minotaurian ties, undermining the influence of the Cardinal Preacher, and so on. In more lawless regions, though, open terrorism and attacks are more normal. Under cover of darkness, the cult's members will attempt to destroy the local shrine and kill its members. Shit's going down at the shrine. So it tells you how to set up the terrain. It gives you sort of deployment. The Minotaurian player sets up armies within 18 by 18 square in the center of the table, and then the edges of the table, and then the evil forces, the attacking forces, however you want to call it. No one's good in this, everyone's evil, within 15 inches of the longest. So it gives you this sort of like map here to kind of set up. The special rules: a single Minotaurian character may choose an additional relic, so you're going to get 2 relics. It's something that you can use that help boost all your armies. They give you different auras and defensive bonuses. I don't remember exactly how they worked in 3rd, 4th edition? 3rd edition? 3rd edition. I'm going to go with 3rd edition, 97. Due to the Holy Order of the Shrine, any characters performing sacred rites may add +1 to any dice roll. Treat results over 9 as a 9. It's pretty cool. And turns. Determine who gets the first turn. Each player rolls d6 standard. Victory conditions. So this is the important bit. At the end of the battle, calculate victory points to see who has won. Use the victory points tables from Dark Millennium. So you've got to use Dark Millennium, you've got to buy the extra box to work out the points for destroyed and broken troops. Characters worth less than 50 points are worth 1 victory point if they're killed in a scenario. If there are no attacking models in the shrine, the Minotaurian side gains +5 victory points. The attacker receives +1 victory points for every 3 unbroken models within the shrine at the end of the battle. If the defending forces have at least 1 squad with at least 50% of its original number left, the Ecclesiarchy player scores an additional number of victory points equal to the victory points value of each surviving unit. So basically the victory conditions there are helping you to basically say, if you can maintain your control over the shrine, even if you lose some forces, but you still got a number of them alive with at least 50% of its original squad number level, you're going to get some bonus victory points. So the point is, it's very good, simple little rules for a tower defense. It's kind of fun. Sounds like fun. Maybe we should play it. I did talk about maybe doing some battle reports. I've got some chaos. I've got some Sister Battle. We could do a defend the shrine. 500 points, easy. I could just get my knight out. Oh, here we are. Pretty pictures again. So, Keepers of the Face. At the head of each of the orders militant are the canonesses, shining examples of purity and dedication of purpose. Oh, I tried to lift that up and that didn't work. There we go. Is that blowing that out even more? That's better. I was trying to see if I can get this a little less. No, still blowing out the picture. Let me lift that up. There we go. Just adjusting. This is a test stream. There we go. And I can move that out of the way a little bit. Okay. It's a bit better. So at the head of each of the Orders Militant are the canonesses, shining examples of purity and dedication of purpose. Each canoness is a formidable figure in her own right, charged with overseeing every aspect of the running of her order and with the leading her troops into battle. Each canoness rises to position through a combination of leadership ability, shrewd tactical genius, and sheer overarching faith in the Emperor. Look at these classic sculpts. They're amazing. I do love the new ones a lot, and they keep a lot of this style, to be honest, but these were, back in the day, these were freaking cool. So freaking cool. The Seraphim, particularly, I don't like their flying sticks, but I've never liked any flying sticks. Classic layout. Yeah, it is a classic. I mean, God, I kind of want to make a whole, like, RPG just in this, like, classic style of graphic design. I think that would be kind of fun. Maybe I should do that. Nope, I've got my one to finish. Got Wraithborn to finish, which I should mention. If you're into your cool Warhammers and you like Grimdark, I've got a Kickstarter out at the moment. I could probably even, if I was even like clever, I would have had that ready to share. But I don't. But you can just search Wraithborn at Kickstarter and you can find it. And it's going to be live in a couple of weeks and you can see if you like it. I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, and it's actually got fonts very similar to this. It's all coming back into fashion. So 002 is a relic is to be stolen by enemies of the Imperium and the Sisters of Battle must recover it. Armies are chosen from the appropriate Codex army lists. The Adeptus Ministorum force may not contain any allies. News of the ecclesiarchy loss must not be allowed to spread beyond the organisation. Fine, so that's it. It looks like you've got a jungle, some broken ground, an abandoned pump house, some ruined buildings. Occasionally, an important symbol of the ecclesiarchy will fall into the hands of the enemy. The blatant affront to the dignity of the Emperor cannot be allowed to continue, and the ecclesiarchy must recover the stolen items at all costs. So, deploy the army's normal 40k battle standard, so you just the little deployment zones either side. The special rules for this, the enemy card is carrying the relic at the start of the battle and cannot pass it on to anyone else. It's far too valuable to trust to an underling. If the model carrying the relic is killed by a range attack, remove the miniature and place a small counter on the model to represent the relic where it fell. Any model that finishes its movement in contact with the relic may pick it up at the end of the movement phase. If a model carrying the relic is killed in hand-to-hand combat and there are no other enemy models in contact, the victor immediately takes possession of the relic. If there are other enemies in contact, the relic is dropped as described earlier. All ecclesiarchy forces hate the enemy character or squad carrying the relic. The relic has, which is I think a particular term, hate. I think it means that you would have to force your sort of attacks on them, or I think that's kind of what it means. I have to go back and find that out. The relic has no intrinsic powers. It doesn't act as a war gear card other than instilling hatred in the ecclesiarchy troops. Yeah, so hatred is a condition. Its purpose in the game is to act as an objective for the Sisters of Battle. Players can play to a number of turns agreed upon by both parties, or you can roll a d6. 1 equals 4 turns, 2, 3, or 4 equals 5 turns, 5 or 6 equals 6 turns. Wow. And the terms who gets first turn, each player rolls d6. Same. Okay, so that's the point. Victory condition. At the end of the battle, calculate victory points, see who has won. Use the victory points tables as before. But the addition, the army with possession of the relic gains an additional 5 victory points, which isn't actually a lot. You'd kind of think the whole point would be, it'd be quite nice if it didn't do a whole victory conditions thing, and if it just said, you know, once you've got the relic, did some sort of like inhibition rules, like you've lost your movement speed or something like that, and maybe then you would be able to then like try and get it off the board. So you can't do any attacks when you're holding the relic. You have to use an action to hand it over, and once you're holding the relic, you move at half speed, or you have one action point, or you only have whatever the action points are for Sister Battle. I don't know off the top of my head, but you limit the action points, limit what they can do, and mean they've got to get to safe passage, and then once they get there, then you've got to defend them. You could like make it into like a 2-turn thing. You could even, I like the idea maybe of liberate the relic. Once you've done that, you move off the board onto your next board, whereas you then start to defend the chapel, whatever it was called. I've already forgotten. Go back to this scenario, defend the shrine, and so that's how you take it. You go with whoever gets the relic tries to run back to the shrine if you are able to. If you are, so you maybe start in the middle or chase down, or maybe you're not allowed to run off until after turn 2. But if you don't get the sort of enemy who runs off with the relic, maybe then you move to a different one where you change the shrine to another thing where they entrench themselves, not in a shrine, but they entrench themselves in their defensive force, and you play it that they've got the half the amount and you've got the double the amount, and play similar rules but split them between the two. That could be kind of fun. I love this art, by the way. It's very cool. Very, very cool. Then let's move on. What's in between this? Oh, nice full cover spread. Look at that army. I still find those flying bases really naff, but we'll leave that. And let's do the last one before we wrap up. Now we're back with Scenario 3, Pierce the Darkness. This scenario is a reconnaissance mission for the Adeptus Sororitas, requiring them to push beyond the front lines of the enemy. Both players choose their armies from any appropriate Codex lists, and neither army may include allies. Deployment and terrain setup is very similar to your standard 40k. 24 inches apart, 12 inches from the neutral table edges is where you set up each of your armies. The terrain is set up like the picture. There's a jungle, there's a rocky outcrop, there's a bit of water in there. And here is the little fluff. As the forces of the Ecclesiarchy form the first line of defense against attackers, it is extremely important that they discover the extent of the threat they face. Deep strikes past the front lines of the enemy army help the Adeptus Ministorum commanders gather information so that they may pass on this intelligence to the Imperial Guard and Space Marine commanders when, or if, they survive. They survive? They arrive, even. Pretty cool. So it's basically behind enemy lines, going ahead, scouting out what's going on, and kind of meeting a small skirmish style game. So the players can play an agreed number of turns, so you can roll for that either. If the Ecclesiarchy can move 3 squads with If the Ecclesiarchy player can move 3 squads with under 50% casualties off the far side of the table, the game ends immediately. To do this, simply move the models off the edge as part of your ordinary turn. The Adeptus Ministorum army goes first as their attack is launched without warning. So this is basically the small skirmish where they are getting past first line defense to start routing out and finding out what the insurgency, the cults, are up to. And it says the victory conditions are the same as usual, but the addition is the Ecclesiarchy gains a number of victory points equal to the value of any of the squads that exit as we stated. And you get points as per the Dark Millennium tables, which I don't have, but I'm sure we can find those. But you can find them anywhere. It doesn't really matter. The important point is that what it uses is you get an extra victory point for every unbroken squad with under 50% casualties as well at the end. So you get additional points if you can get your military or Adeptus Ministorum military up across the line at the other end. So a bit of a British Bulldogs sort of game going on there. Yeah, so that's that one. Let's have a look at the next page then. So that's the 3. I don't know how that really links in necessarily with the others, how you could do that. Maybe that could be the first initial encounter. Maybe that's how you then push past like a first defense before you enter into that capture the flag game with the relic, and then lead it to either the Ministorum or the cultists or whoever the enemies hanging out at the shrine for like a final battle. And that's how I would personally go. But this does actually come into how you would. But look at this page, beautiful. I want that Ministorum chapel. That's so cool. Archconfessor Redemptor Krenov exhorts the Battle Sisters of the Order of Our Martyred Lady into even greater efforts in the defense of an Ecclesiarchy shrine. The Battle Sisters are aided by a squad of Imperial Guard Cadian shock troopers led by a preacher of the Adeptus Ministorum. Above and far right, details of the Ecclesiarchy shrine. I like that shrine. Want one of those, please? Although the priesthood of the Adeptus Ministorum are not given the training that Battle Sisters receive, many preachers, confessors, and missionaries are nonetheless accomplished warriors. They are quite able to defend themselves at the Imperium from aliens and heretics. So you can see the Imperium preachers up there and some missionaries down here. And the Redemptor Kirionov, the Archconfessor. What does it say here about him? Spiral patterns have been painted over Kirionov's cassock and the long black sash around his neck. The pattern's is the same on both, but the colours are direct opposites, so that on the black sash the pattern is picked out in gold, whilst on the white cassock the pattern is a pale, almost silvery grey. While lines have also been added to Kirionov's icon of Chiros and half his mace of Valsan, making both items appear to be crafted from very veiny stone resembling marble or malachite. Beautiful little model there, actually. Great bit of paintwork. It looks great in that little set of Valhalla Ice Warriors there. Talking of Caiaphas Cain earlier. This page, though, these Ecclesiarchy commissions by John Blanche, is probably one of my favourite things from White Dwarf ever, because it is so in the vein and the heart and the soul of what Warhammer was to me and still is to me, which is about kit bashing. And here John Blanche draws some beautifully rendered different variations that you can use to make your own sort of kit bashes. So it says here, how do I read that? Exorcinandis, High Lord of Lustry. Use Mephiston, Blood Angels, Lord of Death, Grails from the Apothecary Corbulo, using plasticine to create the fire, replicate Mephiston's shoulder pads with plastic, replace Mephiston's shoulder pads with plastic skeleton heads, and add Chaos Plasma Pistol to a Chaos Terminator Power Maul. And there you go, you've got yourself a very cool High Lord, or Equitus, Bishop of Metallica. I love that. Use Arman the Chaos Sorcerer, swap head for that of a Bretonnian Knight. Knight Errant, add Grail Arm for Morgana Le Fay, a Chaos Plasma Pistol, and a Chaos Banner Pole. Shroud is made from foil. Love this stuff. Brigandus the Pious, Elder Warlock with added Bretonnian Knight Helm, Empire Standard, and Liber Bubonicus from Skaven Lord Skrolk. Eldar Armor decoration has been filed away, and foil Purity Seals have been added. I love that one. These are all absolutely great. We've got Imperial Jade Wizard with a Chaos Plasma Pistol. You've got Necromunda Escher gang figures can easily be converted into Battle Sisters. Here the hair has been filed away from an Escher figure, and a Chaos Bolt Pistol and a Purity Seal made from foil have been added. That was a beautiful one down the bottom there. It's looking very Escher gang there. Guido Noctula, Priest General of the Iron Brotherhood, is made from a torso of a Space Marine Chaplain, the arms of Imperial Guard Sergeant, and the lower body of Ezekiel, the Dark Angels Grandmaster of Librarians, which is a great model. Massive fan of that one. The Imperial Eagle has been filed away from the model's chest. Ezekiel's book, keys, and other paraphernalia are very evocative of the ecclesiarchy. I'd love to actually be able to make one of these. Maybe that'll be something I will do as one of my kit bashes. And then there's this lovely page here talking about how to play the Scourge of the Damned Kazakh campaign, which I think was done by the one and only Gavy Thorpe. When you first set out to plan your own, this is the little thing it says in the corner here. It says, when you first set out to plan your I lost the page. When you first start to plan your own campaign, one of the best starting points is to generate a simple plan for the first few scenarios, and then make a map of the area in which the action takes place. So, to make your games of Warhammer 40,000 more rewarding, it is a good idea to link them together with a storyline. This is called a narrative campaign, and then though it sounds a bit official and tiresome, it's easy to do and has extra excitement for you and your friends. A variety of storylines can be made up to link the three scenarios in this article together, but here is an example just to give you some ideas. At the start of a planetary rebellion, the rebel cults will normally attack symbols of authority and power, so a first scenario could play along this storyline is to defend the shrine. If the rebel cult wins this battle, then they might steal a relic from the shrine and run off with it, so that's where you then have the liberate the relic scenario. And if the cult wins again, the Ecclesia will realise the strength of the rebels and try and call for help to or attempt to break through the cult's main force. Now you can play the Pierce the Darkness scenario. So they're just going in the order that they were given, a little bit different to mine. However you want to play it, it works. Missions and strategy cards can also provide you simple storylines. If you decided the Ecclesiarchy force to defend a hill, for example, you might play a normal game of Hold the Line or Insane Bravery. The attackers could have the Dawn Raid mission and then reinforcement strategy cards. And there's more you can find in Andy Chambers' article in White Dwarf 199. There is no reason why you can't use other armies when you're playing the scenarios. With a little thought, each scenario can be subtly changed to incorporate other races of the 41st millennium. Defend the Shrine, for example, is perfect for an Elder force repelling an attack on one side of their sacred sites. Pierce of Darkness is a good scenario for a desperate Imperial Guard force being attacked by orcs. And Liberate the Relic scenario can be used by anyone, just changing the relic to some other important item. Thank you very much for that, Gav Thorpe. And I will then have a look actually assembling the shrine, so you can watch me do that. And I'll start the little video here, but basically, this page gives you all the instructions you need to assemble your cardboard Ecclesiarchy shrine. And there's also, if you wanted to, you could actually get your own template by cutting out from this page and glue it to make a bit more sturdy, and you can cut that in half and put it on a bit of card if you want to, from a cornflakes box, so 1990s. And it shows you the Immolator Flame Tank, which is the standard battle tank of the Adeptus Sororitas, and you can see that down there. So I'm going to put this together now, and we can look at it. Basically, what I did is I very carefully cut out the card. I can't believe I've had this for all this time. Cut out the card. I haven't got all the little decorations they've got, which look like the heads from lizard men, I believe. Yeah, I assume that's what they are. And they've stuck those on, and they've got some towers, and they put it on a nice bit of grass. And they've got some little grass textures they've stuck onto it as well, some moss. But yeah, I cut them all out. I used a scalpel just to help because I thought the card's a bit old, so I didn't want to have it tearing and pulling the paper away from it. I then tried gluing it with PVA, but that didn't work so well, so I ended up having to use a bit of sellotape and then some Gorilla Glue, which is what I probably should have used from the start. And then after getting those together, using the way it told me to assemble it in the book, I then put the pieces together. I didn't stick them all down, so I wanted to keep it separate. They obviously asked you to stick the little boxes into the shrine itself, but I've left them loose because I want to be able to store it away and get it out for when I next play a little game, maybe of Kill Team. It'd be good for a little bit of Kill Team stage setting there. And now it's done. There it is. You can see it with a couple of my Sororitas that I've got there. One of my Seraphim and my very, very well worn down standard bearer. But yeah, really great little kit, actually. I do miss these a lot. I don't know if they still do them. I haven't bought a new White Dwarf in a while, but I'm actually quite keen to do it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I really would like to do more of this. There's a really cool thing in this actual edition of White Dwarf called Green is Mean, where they're taking a look at 4 of the warlords and their 40k epic orc armies. It's a really cool article. It shows off 4 really amazing armies. It's really great sort of insight into how they've painted them. As it says at the beginning here, Green is Mean, and in this month's edition of White Dwarf, we'll take a look at how several warlords have been getting on with their epic 40k armies. We asked them about their favourite attachments, what they like painting with, and how their forces have been performing on the battlefield. So if you're interested in seeing those 4, Andy Chambers, Paul Ritticus, Jonas Fearing, and Chris Harbour's epic 40k orc armies and the lovely little information you got in there, well then I'm going to be doing that in another video. Anyway, thank you for watching this, and if you are interested in seeing more of this was recorded part of it as part of my Lore Time lunch, where I'm just going to spend between an hour and a half having a look at an article from White Dwarf, or some old bit of lore, an old codex, or just some new stuff that's on the internet, or anything I can find, or maybe even a bit of a book, and go through some stuff. And I think I'm going to use this Green is Mean, this epic 40k orc presentation, maybe on what I'm thinking of calling White Dwarf Wednesdays. Maybe we'll keep that as a name. Anyway, so you can come find me live streaming on YouTube, and I might put this on my Twitch as well. And until next time, you stay safe in the Underhive. Bye, everyone.